Hey, welcome to Coffee, Code, and Chat. It's Saturday morning, 11 a.m. CST time. So wherever the time for you is, welcome. And thank you for joining us. Hope everybody's doing awesome. And if you're wondering who I am, if you've never met me, I'm Paul from Coding After 30, some random dude who switched careers super late in his life into web development. And I stream twice a week, Friday nights at 9 p.m. CST time, live coding. And then Saturday mornings, we do 11 a.m. CST time, talking about learning to code, switching careers, and tips and tricks that could help us get there faster. So what's up, everybody? Thank you for stopping by. And today's topic is going to be why if no one hires you, right? We hear about all these layoffs happening, all this stuff going on. And so let's talk about, is it still worth learning to code? The answer is yes. And what if no one hires you because of the uncertainties in the economy? Like, let's talk about it. I'd like to hear your opinions. I want to share my thoughts on the topic and talk about some of the things that we could do or ways of thinking about things to help us to kind of stay motivated and continue going through this. So if you're just jumping on, let me say hello here in the chat. We have Rezikata here. Hello, welcome. Nice to have you here. And yeah, and by the way, if you could hear me or not, let me know, because I'd love to make sure that the audio sounds fine before we get too far into it. But yeah, today that's what we're going to talk about, because a lot of people are, seeing what's happening in the world. People see the huge layoffs in the huge FANG companies, and it just seems that the golden days are over. And the thing about this is, I was talking to John Smilga yesterday, on his podcast, and we talked about, like a little bit about this and the idea of, the economy. It flows, right? Sometimes you have your ups, sometimes you have your downs. And then when there's a downturn, a lot of companies are going to be like, hey, let's see what happens. Let's slow things down. And another thing, before people freak out too crazily, with all this doom and gloom that we hear about, everybody's doing, freezes, no one's hiring. A lot of companies are doing that. That's true. But if you think historically, a lot of companies actually don't even hire in Q4 just because it's the end of the year. They want to see, what happens going into the first quarter of the next year. And so a lot of times right now, it's going to be a slow time to get jobs, right? And so if you wait for the first quarter, second quarter, the things will open up. And we will talk more about this idea of why if no one hires you, because I want to talk about this process of that you should probably think about when learning to code. And this is something that motivates me to continue to learn to code. And so if you're on the fence and you're wondering, is it too late? Did I miss the boat? No, but there's always going to be challenges getting hired. And there's things you could do to kind of give you the one up on someone if you wanted to get hired, right? So there's always things you could do to stand out more and more, regardless if you went the CS route or if you went coding bootcamp route, right? And we're going to talk about all those things today. But first, let me say hello in the chat. And if you're jumping on just now, you're watching Coffee, Code, and Chat. I stream Friday nights where I live code 9 p.m. CST time, and Saturday mornings 11 a.m. CST time, where we talk about and answer questions around getting started with web development, switching careers, and things that you can do. So welcome. And let me just say hello in the chat. Let me know if the audio is fine. We have Northern Chip jumping in. Always great to see you, my man. Himat, Bert Hay saying hello. Parham Learn. Yo, what's up? Good to see you. Abby Learn in public. I love it. Coming from Mark's stream. Yeah, Mark is a good dude. He's doesn't fit the web developer mode like normal, but the perception of what people think about web developers. And this is why I like it, because, he could be a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? The thing that I like about Mark, he's not afraid to share his opinion, which is really awesome. And so, but the real reason why I really like his YouTube channel is because he came from a very untraditional way to start a career as a web developer, and he's been fairly successful at it. So that's pretty cool. And I'm glad that you're coming from his stream. Alex, what's up? Good to see you here. And then we have Parham says, do you have any idea why I'm struggling so much with HTML and CSS that I signed 2 weeks ago and not even able to build a simple page? Yeah, that's why you're struggling, because you started 2 weeks ago. It takes time. So you're doing great. Just keep it up. That's the comment. See, like, this is where, like, I would argue with him a little bit on the standpoint is that when you're at a point where you don't care enough about your, and this is going to be a hot take. Like, if you're trying to get a job, right? If you're looking to get a job at a company, or even like working freelancing with clients, unless you have like a crazy reputation where you've been so successful, your name is so recognizable, your reputation and the way you present yourself will go a long way. And so I am jealous of people that have created amazing businesses where they could just say, like Elon Musk, like smoking a big fat one on Joe Rogan's show. I mean, if anybody else did that, right, and they didn't have an established name, they would be like, forget it, forget it. They're not gonna get the opportunity. So for me, like, the biggest thing, if you're looking to get hired and you are one of the options you're looking for is taking this traditional route of getting jobs and doing stuff like that, you do need to be concerned with the way you present yourself. And so when I started, my YouTube channel, and when I started looking for jobs, I was like, when someone watches my channel, what kind of impression do I want them to have in order to take me seriously as a candidate for getting hired? And so that's up to you. You decide, right, what you and how you want to present yourself. But I'm a big believer that if you want to work in a professional setting, you have to present yourself in a professional manner, which is, kind of crazy because you have to kind of behave a certain way, because there's a certain communal expectations of what that looks like. And people that could get away with that because they don't live in the matrix, that's awesome too. But for me, for majority of us who are looking to switch careers, looking to kind of put your best foot forward, representation is important. Your way you present yourself, of course, having great communication and having a social presence that makes you be more hireable, if you will. But we are going to talk about the other side of the coin. Why if no one hires you? Because that's the point of this talk. But before we do that, I just want to continue saying hello to everybody in the chat. And like, for me, it's like 11 a.m. is super early. I'm like, Avi, I don't know if I said it, but I love the way you change your name. Learn in public. By the way, that's a huge way to build authority and kind of be involved in the community with coding. So that's pretty awesome. Right, and Abby, throwing words of wisdom here, play the game until you could rig it. And 100%, we all have to play the game, and we all have to follow the rules of the particular thing that we want to be involved with. And if you could get out of that game because you already built yourself, you have that, what people call FU money, that you don't worry about anything, that's fine. But for a lot of us, you have to do things in a way that majority of people expect. And for me, by the way, being polite, being nice, and always trying to present myself in a professional way, like, I don't see any negative connotations with that. So I'm always like going through the things like that. Nice. Abby, if you're going to do live streams, and if you want to jump on my live stream, I would love to hear, or anybody for a matter of fact, like, I love sharing people's stories. So if any one of you would like to jump on streams, just send me an email at codingafter30@gmail.com. What's up? What's up, Horace? Great to see you here. So, all right, so let's jump into it. Let's talk about it. So we see articles like this. Let me share my screen here. And it's like layoff spree in Silicon Valley spells end, an era for big tech. And, they have these headlines that scared the crap out of all of us. And they talk about, like, how many people are getting laid off, how things are changing. And you know what? Based on the economy, based on the recession that is coming, or if we are already in one, right? People do like tighten their belt, right? It's very important to do that. I think I'm going to lose my voice. That's okay though. But what I want to say here is that even though that's the case, even though the economy could be slowing down, and I'll give you like my thoughts on it in just a little bit. But the thing that I wanted to say is that if you decided to make a career change into web development, or you're in school, going through a CS degree and you're learning like programming, or you're going to a boot camp, like just because there's uncertainty, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get hired. This is one thing that I want to say. The fact that the economy is bad, the things that are not going well, doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to get to a point where you're going to be getting hired. And Parham, you have excellent questions. I'll get to that in just a second. And so what I was going to say is that continue on your journey, continue to build things. And if you wanted to get to places faster, the biggest tip I could give you if you want to have and increase your chances of getting hired is getting out there into the community, build in public, share things you're doing and projects you're doing on Twitter, make friends. Like yesterday I did a stream talking about how to get started with Strappy and Remix, and I just want to show you kind of like what I do. And so when I stream, and it wasn't like a big like huge post, but I was like, let me just throw it out there for anybody that's interested. So here, when I was working on this stream, I posted it. Live coding tonight, exploring Strappy.js, Tailwind, and Remix Run. Build a simple project. If you want to hang out, stop on by. So I'm literally just publicly building things, and I'm tagging the companies of the tech that I'm using. And so when people see the tweets or retweet, they're like, hey, this is what Paul's involved with. This is pretty cool. I'd like to be involved in similar things. And you start to build connections. By the way, I started building and exploring Remix, and through my exploration with Remix, I met Brooks, who runs the Remix meetup here in Austin, Texas. And through our connections and through our relationships, he actually recommended me to MC Remix European conference. So I'm actually found a opportunity, which is going to be really awesome, where I get to be a MC at the Remix European conference this year, which is pretty exciting. And that opportunity would have never came, right? That opportunity would have never came if I didn't make connections, if I didn't get out there, if I wasn't public with my learning and genuinely wanting to get involved with the communities that I did. And so now, from being some random dude on YouTube, going through the process of learning to code, I got an opportunity to MC the Remix conference, right? And do you think that's going to be helpful for my reputation when I could say hey, I was one of the MCs on the Remix conference? There, look, that's Paul Verslavsky, right? That's me. And so this idea of creating your opportunities, creating your luck, if you will, in regardless if the economy is bad or not, if there's a recession, is kind of developing skills that will help you to stay hireable and relevant. Let me kind of because I do want to involve everybody in the chat. Let me continue saying hello here. Daryl, what's up? Daryl's going to be on stream, not this week, but next week will be awesome. I'm super excited about it. Going to talk about his journey and what he did in switching careers, which I think is important to hear other people who are in the same boat as you telling their stories. So instead of having someone tell you hypothetical situations because they've already been working 30 years in the industry, it's let's talk to people who made the career change. Let's talk about people that did struggle through the work and what they do to get hired. So it'd be awesome to have them. And great conversation here. And Abby says, true, I would be worried if Apple, Microsoft, Amazon started laying people off. And, companies might, but that's just normal flow of things. And Daryl says, I'm extremely introverted and have started to step out because I know it's the only way. And that's 100% true. You got people, I come out as being introverted or extroverted, I should say. because the way I speak and people, oh my gosh, you like have no problem. That was all practice for me. And after all these live streams, I always like feel exhausted because being this or presenting myself this way is not like the normal state for me. I need to recharge by being by myself. That's like what normal, like what introverts and extroverts are. It's not that they can't be like out there being like, I'm like whatever. Like the difference is introverts get energy from being alone and by themselves, where extrovert people get energy from dealing with other people. And this is like, you know, why a lot of times when introverts go in public and there's a lot going on, they just like really want to be like, no, I need some space. I need to get out there. I need to go home, take it easy. Yeah. And so, and then Alex saying, Microsoft, from what I know, laid off 4,000 people. Yeah, 100%. What's up, Brian? Good to see you. And so, yeah, so let's hit a bunch of questions here. Paul, how do you balance out your dating, gym in your upcoming years? Now I'm going to still get dates, lift heavy while learning a lot of daily. So you have to prioritize those things, right? You have to make sure that you prioritize things that are important. To be honest, right now, I'm not dating anybody and I'm not looking to date at the moment. Just because I went through a really bad breakup. I need to clear my head around it. But with that being said, you need to prioritize the things that are very important for you. And the fact is, you can't have like do everything you want. That's just the truth of it. So what I think around is I think like your major in college and your minor in college. So my major focus would be learning to code, right? I need to get the job. Let's say if you're looking to get a job or if you have a job, it's like I need to continue to develop my skills to stay relevant, or God forbid I get laid off. It's like, do I have the skill? Am I up to date to apply and get another job, right? So that's my majority that I focus on. The second thing here is that you have your minor focus. So you have your major, something that you really need to focus on. And then your minor would be, it's like, okay, I need to make sure that I hit the gym, right? I need to go work out 3 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever it is, you have to put on the schedule and you have to do it. And then there's everything else, right? And the reason why I do major minor is because I can't focus on everything. But I know like if I change certain points in my life in a major way, everything else is going to improve after that. So the biggest thing I would say is plan your days, plan your studies in like Google Calendar, and just make sure you schedule the things that you want to do. Hey, this is the time I'm going to be learning. Here's the time I'm going to be going to the gym. But one thing that I'm going to say to everybody, because I took a long break from exercise, terrible for your health, number one. Number two, you feel like crap. Like it's very hard to deal with hardship when you're not consistently exercising. So don't just exercise because you want to get huge or strong, or just be fit and healthy. The reason I exercise is the component of it allows you to be in very stable moods. It allows you to be more happy. It allows you to not stress out, because exercise releases endorphins, which are great for your mental health. So if you are not exercising because you're like, I don't feel it, like you should, for mental benefits, for health benefits, and just all around benefits, right? And so plan your time accordingly and make sure you do the things that are important to you. When it comes to relationships, what I would say, depending on your age, how old, how young you are, obviously it's important to have relationships, but if you're later in life and you're switching careers, you better make sure that you communicate to your partner, especially if you're married, the difficulty you will take and the challenges you're both going to have moving forward. And you have to make sure that you're both in alignment in order to continue to have a great relationship, because working full-time or learning to code while having family responsibilities is very hard. Let's see what other questions we have. And I do want to openly chat with all of you, so don't be shy. Go ahead. Yep. So I'd like to get more context here. There's some uncertainty. We used to get a lot of A/B tests back to back from your client, big names, but they're now silent. I'd love to like expand that comment. Sounds, is this for where you work? Were you doing freelancing, or what were you doing? And then Abby asks, Paul, how old were you when you started to learn to code? What are the things that did change, that didn't change from time? So the biggest Well, I was 36 when I started to seriously learn to code, and it took me almost 4 years to get hired. I got my first real dev job at 39, and there's a reason why it took me so long, because number one, I was trying to learn everything under the sun, so I basically became what's that saying, master of none, like some whatever. Basically, like, I didn't set my priorities and I didn't have a clear path of what I needed to do to get hired. So what I ended up doing, learning like Remix, it's a Remix right now is in my head. Remix is pretty cool, but I started like learning Ruby, C++, like Python, all these, like C, all these different languages, trying all these different things, which basically made me jump around from one thing to another without actually learning anything. And it's not only until I decided to choose JavaScript that React that basically got me to a point of focus to actually get good at what I was doing and be able to get hired. In terms of what changes, like everything changes. You know, we used to have jQuery, now nobody uses jQuery. Like obviously the big languages stay the same, JavaScript stays the same, but even JavaScript changed, like, you know. And so what I would say is stick to the basics, make sure you always learn the fundamentals, and this idea of that you will always have to keep learning to stay relevant. Once React dies, guess what? I'm not gonna try to hold on to it. I'm gonna move to another technology that makes sense. So like the thing about like coding, everything changes, but at the same time, the point of you being a developer is the fact that every day of every year, you're learning something new to continue to allow you to stay relevant in the field, to be able to get hired. So that is kind of the way I look at it. Yeah, drinking is really bad. So this is something that like I stopped drinking. I drink maybe a couple of times a year. And the one thing I've noticed is when I used to drink, not like get wasted, but like if it was like part of my, you know, life, I realized that it affected me the next day. And the next day I would not make like the best decisions. Not that I would make horrible decisions, but I would just be like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to jog today. I don't feel like it. Or like, I'm not going to spend the extra 2 hours of coding. It literally inhibited my motivation, and all I wanted to do is just watch TV. And so to me, I try to do things that help me stay motivated and focus on being as productive as possible. And one app actually I wanted to make, because at the end of the day, this is what it comes down to. It's what kind of actions are you taking or decisions you're making throughout the day? Are they constructive or destructive? So I literally wanted to make an app which randomly texts me and asks me what I'm doing. And like it will do it at random times, so I can't plan. And then I would basically say, this is what I'm doing right now. And then I would just say, is it a constructive behavior or is it a destructive behavior? And that's it. And then at the end of the week, I will have a graph that shows all the constructive things I did versus all the destructive things I did. And the point is, you want to do more constructive things throughout your day to get ahead. And if you can plan, or I should say, have a plan, have a roadmap of pushing your progress forward, that you could constantly every month or every 2 months or every 3 months do like a little kind of feedback session with yourself where you're like, hey, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I accomplished. This is what I didn't accomplish. Where am I, right? And constantly checking your progress and like doing weekly, monthly, you know, bi-quarterly, to kind of make sure that you're not settled in just a year goes by and you're like, whoa, nothing happened. This is crazy. And so that's super important. Yeah, that's interesting. Say you were doing A/B testing at your marketing small agency at work, and now like you feel like not enough people reaching out, and you're saying it looks like they're embracing the winter. And probably, yeah. And the thing is, like Q4 like is super slow. Like I'm not actually like amazed how anything gets done. Like your budget is gone in your company until next year. Like you're not hiring anybody because of all the holidays and everything else going on. And so I feel like, you know, Q1, Q2 will definitely improve. And then Brian says, I'm fortunate enough to have a job that lets me learn and work on things during their downtime. And to me, like I love companies that do that, because the truth is they're investing in you. And the more value you can provide for them, the more valuable employer you're going to be. And the way you do that is by gaining new skills. So that is pretty awesome. George says, I made the same mistake, learning too many things. Now I'm focusing on Java and SQL. And that's a very good combination. And like a lot of people say, what should I learn? There's many paths to get hired. There's Java, SQL, there's ASP.NET, there's obviously the JavaScript route that I went with React. And then George says, I ignored any new hot technology, including Python. And even though there's jobs with Python, I would say like pick the thing that you're interested in and make sure that there is, you know, opportunity in your area. And Sharon says, ooh, I needed to hear this. I think like all of us need to hear this. This is why I do these live streams, because I replay them for myself to keep myself on track. Daryl thinks that a constructive, destructive app would be a good idea. Maybe we'll build it, have some graphs and visual feedback for us nowadays is great motivator. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. And that, you know, make it very simple app. It'll be like cool to build. Maybe I'll do that one of these streams. And then Avi says, our dev team only focuses on these stacks: JavaScript, React, old version with classes, PHP, and Go. Node.js only for dev environments and scripting. Go bulletproof production stuff. Nice. Yeah, and so the most important thing is whatever company you want to apply to or the company you're working for, whatever tech stack they use, make sure that you're constantly growing and involving your skills in that tech stack. So let's kind of like really good conversation. Thank you all. Thank you for jumping in and watching Coffee Corner Chat. Glad to have you here. And so we're going to continue with this discussion. So talking about this idea of why if no one hires you. And so I want to tell you the mindset that I adopted when learning to code. So before getting hired as a React developer at this company, VersaSuite, that I called my first real dev job, I actually prior to that did some PHP and WordPress stuff. And here's my reasoning. And I'm not saying you all have to learn PHP with WordPress or learn Laravel. There's definitely job opportunities there. And before I get into my mind of thinking, I want to share with you video coding Face did that. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I'm just going to put it out there to go check it out after the stream or when you have a chance. He just released a video called Bye Bye Fang, Major Layoffs. And the message that he talks about there is very interesting. And I hope that all of you after the stream, or if you haven't watched it, go check it out. It's pretty good, because the idea there is that no job security exists or is guaranteed. It's up to us. And there's this different way of thinking that, you know, people have. And you basically, even though you're working at a company, right, you might be working for somebody else. The idea is that you should have an entrepreneurial mindset where you think about, hey, I'm going to work on learning and developing hot in-demand skills that the market needs, you know, hence going into software engineering for me. And then I'm going to do it in parallel. Wow, there's certain words I just can't say. And the idea that I adopted really early, and I'll come back to this idea of WordPress development, is I was really scared that I was not going to get a job. That literally frightened me, because I was like, man, I'm 36 years old, starting to learn to code. No one's going to hire me. I'm too goddamn old. It will never happen. And it was like a real legitimate fear for me that really like kept me up at night. And so I was like, you know what? I do want to pursue this goal, this mission. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, in parallel, learn to code. And my goal would be get good enough at one technology so a company could hire you. But then at the same time, I was thinking about, but if I can't get a job, I want to get good enough that I could do freelancing. And hence, I actually did a little bit of freelancing. Did it pay all my bills? Was I super successful? No. But I basically would, on the weekends, would try to find clients to set up WordPress pages for them. Like really simple stuff, something. Like I even help people use like Squarespace to set up websites, like low code or no code, just to practice this idea. If I can't get hired by a company, well, at least let me try to make my own opportunities. And guess what happened? I ended up getting hired before my freelancing business succeeded. And so I was like, you know what? I'll go the hired way, because you learn a lot in terms of development and improving your developer skills by working at a company than you would if you were by yourself, because working at a company, there's other developers, they do PR, reviews, and then they help you out, they give you feedback, so you literally learn really quickly at your new job. And so to me, this idea of constantly focusing on, I'm going to build a high demand skill, but my idea here is to continue to build and grow my knowledge in a way that, am I going to be valuable to the company that I work for, but also to have valuable skill that I can use to be like an entrepreneur. If I had to build something on my own, if I had to like try to get gigs or try to find my own clients, so I have the skill that I could monetize myself. And I think that's a very important thought process. So if you want to have security in your job, I think there's literally one way of doing it. And number one is being the best that you can be at the thing that you're doing. And number two is understanding that nobody owes you anything, and at any point company could let you go. And so you either have to be highly hireable, which I think we should all strive for because of our experience, because of our skill, or you should also have or adapt this entrepreneurial mindset where it's like, hey, if I'm unemployed or if I'm while looking for a job, yeah, I could prioritize looking for a job. That's great too, but I should probably have some sort of side project or some side idea that I could test around that maybe could turn into a business or to turn into a project or a SaaS or what have you. And the reason why I say this, even if it doesn't, the idea is that you're setting yourself up, constantly being forward thinking and thinking about the two side coins of making money. You either make your own money by having your own business, or you develop a skill that's hireable enough that you work for somebody else. And if somebody's not hiring you, I'm not saying freelancing is easier than getting hired, but it's another opportunity you have. And even if you don't build a business, but you think like an entrepreneur, I still believe it's going to make you a better developer because you understand what it takes for a product to be done. And so you're going to have a deeper understanding of what needs to happen. So that's kind of like the game that I play with myself. Is obviously I love my job or want to stay at my job, but at the same time, I'm like, what skills do I need to have that's going to continue to increase my value either for my next role or my next job that I get, or if I wanted to be self-employed. And here's the reason why I have the YouTube channel. I do have a blog that I have to write in more, but this idea of getting publicly out there and building a reputation is super huge because I literally found opportunity from my YouTube channel, not only, meeting cool developers, but also I had job interviews that I got from friends that I made on YouTube. You know what I mean? And so to me, like this idea of getting out there and building authority and reputation on Twitter and on YouTube is a huge thing, or blogging and writing and getting involved in the communities, going to meetups, because that's the visible side that people see of how are you involved in the dev community and what are you working on, what are you doing. So instead of me telling you what I do, it exists, it's in the social. And I feel like this ability to be able to command attention through being social doesn't guarantee, but it will open opportunities that you might not have. There's an interesting talk that Wes Bos did. It's like why everybody should do speeches at meetups or conferences, even though you might not want to. And he literally says, because of the reputation booster that you get, which is super, super huge. And this is why I tell everybody, like, yes, it's cool to watch my YouTube videos, it's cool to consume content, but you don't want to be a consumer. You want to be a creator or your own advocate for yourself, your own skill advertiser, where you get out there public and you create little micro posts on Twitter. If you don't, I'm not saying you have to start a YouTube channel or write blog. You could write guest blog posts for like dev.to or other like platforms like that, but share that stuff. Be public in your learning, get out there, because that's going to help you to start creating or being part of a community that is going to give you job opportunities. Like for instance, this Remix meetup that I go to, I build a really good relationship with Brooks, and they're constantly hiring at his company, which is interesting, which I'm going to talk about in a second. It's like, what happens if there's a recession? How can I apply to places where they actually have positions available? But anyway, Brooks he like, I forgot like where I was going with this. Hold on a second. Let me back up. Let me rewind my brain because I had too many thoughts at the same time. But yeah, this is where I was going. Because I've been going to the meetups, at those meetups, Brooks, he works with this company called HEB and they're always hiring. And so he's like, hey, if you're looking for an opportunity, please send me your resume and I'm going to put a referral for you so you at least will get an interview. And I think that's the cool part of being involved in the community, getting involved with people and getting to a point where you're being involved in these circles, meetups on Twitter, on LinkedIn, where you can have someone that you could reach out to and ask for a referral for the company that they work at. And so if I lose my job just because I'm involved in these communities, I could rely on those communities for job opportunities. Doesn't mean that it's guaranteed that I'm going to get hired, but at least know enough people to be like, hey, is your company hiring? And if they are, can you pass my resume along? So relationship building will take you way farther than just sending out resumes blindly. And if you're not doing it, like literally turn off this video and go like do that right now. Go join a community for opportunities. And that's the reason, by the way, while I'm building this platform called DevHunt, because I want to create a place for aspiring developers who are either working their first role or haven't gotten hired yet to work together on improving their development skills, but at the same time have a place for them to share ideas of what they're doing in order to get hired, do resume reviews, do portfolio reviews and stuff like that. By the way, if you're interested in getting your resume reviewed or your portfolio reviewed, you could always email me at codingafter30@gmail.com, or if you want to see that during a live stream, let me know. I'd love to do those because I think those are very, very helpful. So let's, before we continue, actually, before I look at the comments here, this idea of talking about jobs during recession. So the funniest thing that happened to me like not too long ago. So I was at a meetup at the Remix meetup here in Austin, and Brooks, every meetup I go to, their company is always hiring. HEB is always hiring. And a lot of other people I talk to, they're like, man, my company does a company freeze. We're not hiring anybody anymore. We're going to wait for maybe next quarter or next year, like second quarter, like whatever it is. And I'm like, bro, like every company I talk to, everybody's like hiring freeze, no one's hiring. What's the secret? So this is what Brooks said to me. He's like, look, I work for a big supermarket chain. People need food regardless if it's a recession or not, right? And so there's actually recession-proof businesses which will strive whenever there's a recession. Like obviously, everybody has their pains, but there's businesses and companies that do well during recession because services they provide are used by everybody regardless if the economy is good or bad. Like think of like let's think about like HEB, like it's a supermarket chain. If I have to go and eat every week, right? Let's think about Netflix. When there's pandemic going on and I'm too lazy to go out, I'll sit home, watch Netflix, right? But as soon as like there's no pandemic anymore and I could get outside and do stuff, I'm going to spend less time watching Netflix. I'm going to hang out more with my friends. So that will affect the business, right? And so picking companies to apply to that have recession-proof or as best as they can business, they're always hiring because they always need developers. They always especially like everything is online nowadays. So that's one thing to think about. So let me quickly say hello here in the comments again. So lots of good questions here. So let me say, all right, let's start with George here. What are your thoughts about pros and cons of using your skill to develop an agency? So I'm really big on this idea of having entrepreneurial mindset and setting up a business. Running an agency, I would say, will take a lot of work because you have to handle all the financing, you have to do all the sales, you have to have a product that you want to present. And so like, I'm not saying like not to discourage anyone from doing it, but it does take a lot of work. So what I started thinking about, it's not so much like, let me start an agency and think about all the things that agencies need to have, like what services are providing. When I think of an agency, I typically think of someone who creates the websites, who regardless if you use like WordPress or Squarespace, if you build it from scratch, whatever it is. You also need to get your clients, you need to handle the financial stuff. You also, a lot of these agencies, another service they provide outside of websites, they provide SEO services. So that's something you have to be aware of. So that's already like a lot of things that you have to know. So that's what I wanted to do originally, but I started to think on a smaller size. Instead of trying to create an agency, which you can, I decided to think about like, what can I do as a service? And so right now I'm working on this, or like something like a SaaS or a PaaS, like platform as a service. And I'm thinking, or like another idea people have, like this concept of microservices, where you create these microservices to solve like some goal. And one great idea I saw about microservices is that you don't have to recreate stuff from scratch. Let's say you're an SEO person, and I'm just going to use this as an example. There's a bunch of different places where you could get SEO data, right? And so what you can do now, you can create a microservice that serves as a hub that allows people to pull data from different SEO places and have it be done in one place. And that could be a service that you provide. So you could create a SaaS, which takes all these different SEO like places where you gather data from, and you federate that data into like one place. And your microservice is basically a response to take that data, bring it together, and give a user one place where they could see all the relevant data that they need. And that could be a microservice. You could charge whatever, $4.99, $9.99 a month, and there you are, you have a service. And to me, all you have to think about is a great idea that you need to come up with that will actually have demand, and then you have to build it and sell it. And the point of microservices, it's not like a full project. It's something that you could devote maybe like month to 3 months, build it, and if it fails, like you just try another one, right? But if you're building like super huge monolithic projects, like that takes a little bit more commitment and more time. And in my case, you know, I wanted to go the microservice route, but I didn't, because I wanted to build something for my community, something I wish existed when I was learning to code. So I'm working on this Dev Hunt project, which will allow people to collaborate, improve their skill, pair program, as well as work together to improve the coding ability to get to this point of being hireable. And so the whole goal of Dev Hunt, the website that I'm building, is to bring people to a point where they feel confident getting hired, and they could help others to achieve their goals as well. So that's what I'm working on. So instead of like thinking like an agency, I'm thinking of like a product, only one product, one service that I'm going to provide, rather than multiple services that an agency will provide. And I guess that would be my idea. Figure out what is the bare minimum thing that will add value that you could monetize, and just focus on creating that. Because if you could start making income off that one little idea, that just proves the fact that you have the knowledge and the skill to be profitable, even if it's small profits. But if you try to do everything at once, it'll be very difficult. So like, I'll give you an example. So one thing that I wanted to do is like, I'm always like, I'm doing this YouTube things. I'm really like never making money. How can I monetize it? So I'm like, all right, they could do buy me coffee, right? That's good. People like, and by the way, you don't have to buy me coffee. You don't have to donate. If you have like money that you'd like to just throw away, like, or you really believe what I do here on this channel, you could go to buy me coffee, donate $1, $2, whatever it is, to go to my, Lamborghini Diablo fund. Maybe it'll take 100 years, but I'm not going to give up. Let's see if I could get a Lamborghini Diablo with coffee donations. But like, you don't have to donate, by the way. But one thing that I'm doing, I'm like, okay, like if someone donates $2 a month, I'm going to provide a service for them, which is an access to a private community that I have for Coding After 30. So I'm testing this idea. Can I monetize the community even if it's at $2? And what value do I have to provide in that community to make the value of spending $2 worth it? And that's kind of how you think. So another idea I had, and there's a lot of great comments, I'll get to them. Another idea I had in terms of monetizing myself here on YouTube is a lot of people wondering, is my resume good enough? Is my portfolio good enough? So I literally was like, listen, for $9.99, and I'm just throwing these numbers out there, and you test it, it's like, I'm going to create a product which is basically going to be a resume review and a portfolio review with a follow-up of, 5 things that you need to change to make improvement in your portfolio and your resume so you could get closer to that hireable state. And that could be like a call that I do, which costs $9.99, and people like, that's too cheap or too expensive. Regardless of where you fall in that, I have one product idea, whatever it is, and then I have what the value of it's going to be. And instead of trying to focus on adding additional products and additional things, I'm just going to be like, how many of these interview review things I could sell at $9.99. Let's say I get 1,000 of them. I'm like, oh wow, this is great, this is amazing. Like a lot of people looking for that. Maybe I could raise the price a little bit. And by the way, if you're providing a service, here's the biggest thing, like lesson I learned. When I used to teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a martial art, and when I started my own school, I didn't have confidence because I wasn't even a black belt at the time, and we had a lot of competition. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to charge less money for the service so I get more people. So I started charging $50 per month for the tuition, and I still like wasn't getting enough student even at the cheaper rate. So I still like was not growing as fast as I wanted. I thought if I lowered the price, I would get more people. And so my business partner, this is what he said to me. He said, instead of charging less, you should charge more, because there's this perception of value, and you got to do it within reason, right? But this idea of keep raising the price until you get to a point where nobody wants to buy it for that amount of money, because that means either the value provided is not worth the cost that you're asking for, or the cost is too high. So you either increase the value or you lower the cost. But this is what you do. And if you're start slow, start small, start charging, like even like you could do stuff for free, but over time, keep increasing the cost of your service to a point until people stop buying it, right? And the reason why I say this is because you're literally testing the market to see what is the service you're providing worth. And when you get to a point where people are not buying it anymore, take it a few steps down, and now you have a cost for the service where it's the value and your monetary like cost match, and you're providing good service for a cost that's not cheap, right? And you're able to make money. So what I ended up doing in my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, instead of charging $50, we went to $145 a month, which is like tripling the cost of the service. And what I did is I made changes in the program to add more value for people to justify that. And what cool thing happened when we started charging more money, if I kept the old pricing, which was like $50 a month, I would need to get 3 students to equal 1 student at $150. So the lesson here for those of you who want to kind of sell a service or sell a product is make sure that you create something that has that perceived value that justifies the amount of money that you want to charge for it. And you want to charge the most money for the service that you're providing. And I know like people are going to be like, are you ripping people? No, you're not ripping people off, because the value has to match. For instance, if I said to you, I'm going to create a course on whatever it is, I'm going to charge you $1,000. If I can't explain to you the value that surpasses the $1,000 cost, you'll never buy that $1,000 product. For instance, if I say, listen, I'm doing this 3 months course that costs $1,000, but after the course, I know you will have the skills to make extra $30,000 a year this year. And I'm just using an example. I'm not going to have a product like that. But if you're like, oh, there's a potential to make 30,000, or I could improve my leads or my sales or my website that you create for me. And actually, like, let me use this as an example. So if you're selling websites, you could charge people hourly, but you could charge people by, I forgot what the name of it's called, but value-based pricing. So if you go to a company and like, look, it's like, maybe you could create a website for $200 on WordPress, right? You could do that, which is perfectly fine. But you could be like, hey, I'm going to create a website for you that is going to increase your leads by 30% month over month, which will increase your revenue by whatever the amount is. And that means that your yearly business will increase by $50,000. And that is why I'm going to charge you $5,000 for that website. And that now, with that value proposition, makes sense, because to increase their business by $50,000, the $5,000 website makes sense, right? Even though it's something you could build with WordPress overnight if you wanted to. But again, like I'm talking too much about this, so let me jump back. But yeah, being entrepreneurial is really good. And if this is boring you, let me know, because I'd love to talk about what you want to talk about, so we can switch topics. So, and George says, I came across 4 business owners who want me to develop websites for them, and I've known them for years. So this is coming back to his agency question. What I would say is you don't have to start an agency to work with these 4 businesses to build websites. You could literally work as a solo entrepreneur, so you don't have to invest too much in like starting a business and whatever. Just build those websites. You know what I mean? You don't need an agency. You just need to be like, hey, this is like, what do you want me to build? Plan it out and do it. And so I think that's a great opportunity. And for me, like, that's exactly the type of opportunities I like is, hey, let me do my work, but on the weekends when I'm not working at my job, if I could get a client or a business to build something for them, that is amazing. That is amazing. And Benjamin Wolf says, Paul, I took your advice. We had no coding group in my area, so I started one. 6 weeks later, I was offered my first contract work by one of our attendees, and I didn't submit a single application. My God. Listen, Benjamin, thank you for coming on. If you're still here, I just want to say the love to you, because a lot of times people think like the advice I give is just me being, I make zero money on YouTube, and if I could make money on YouTube, that'll be amazing. But my goal here, number one, is to grow my authority as a developer in the space, but at the same time to give you advices that worked for me. And this idea of networking, and people say like, there's a thing that doesn't exist in my area. Like, look at Benjamin, what he did. He's like, look, we didn't have a thing at my area because I lived in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you live in the middle of nowhere. I'm just guessing here. But you're like, I'm going to start my own thing. And you did. You started your own meetup group. And now one of the attendances offered you a contract role. And that is exactly the power of networking, getting out there and creating your opportunities. So congrats, Ben. That's all on you, bro. You did it. You got it yourself. Keep it up. And I hope that now like everybody sees the value of like community building and doing stuff. SNL4L, TS, hi, Paul, how are you? I'm doing good. How are you today? Great to have you here. Artur, what's up? Hello, Paul. How are you? How did you manage to come out in such a civilized time space? Great to see you. Yeah, you know what? Great idea. So I do stream 9 p.m. US Central, US Central Time, CST, on Fridays, but 11 a.m. is a great time because across the pond, right, in a lot of the European countries, it's around like 6. I believe it's 6 now, or 5 p.m. and which is like a doable time for people to jump on and kind of hang out with. So yeah, thank you. That's why I wanted to do a Saturday morning stream, to get more of the people across the pond, get us out here, which is fantastic. Yasser says, so I've 3 years job gap. Every interview focuses more on the gap more than my skills and projects I've done at that time, which is insane. You know what I mean? And so that to me is nuts that people make such a big deal out of it, because you could have a 3-year gap where you are working on client projects, or you are. And so what I would say, like, literally would be like, when you go to an interview and people say, hey, why do you have a 3-year gap? You could be like, I know that I have this 3-year gap, and this is what I have done, like during the gap. Like, I build these projects for clients, or I build this project, whatever. Like, you need to kind of explain yourself away, which to me, like, I'm like, why do you even have to explain yourself? But yeah, that's a hard one. Like, a lot of people will bring that up if you have a gap. And what I would say is try to construct a response before you go to an interview to have an answer of how you're going to explain that away. And a lot of it, like I would say, is, you have to come up with something that shows them that you're still involved in the thing that you're trying to get hired for, and so yeah, it doesn't look good. But at the same time, if someone like is unemployed, or if someone is like taking time off work, unless you like literally, some people, they make enough money and they're like, I want to take 3 years off and travel. I'm not one of those persons, but some people do that. And if you're at a job interview and someone's like, hey, you took 3 years, and you're like, listen, I was so good at the thing that I was doing that I made a bunch of money, and so I took time off to travel with my family. Now I'm back and like blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that's like a good way to describe it, but yeah, it's a good lesson here, if you are taking time off something, do something to continue for you to stay relevant in your developing skills, and make it public. Like start writing, like start building a project and start sharing on Twitter what you're doing. So there's like that social proof that you're doing stuff, because you don't want to have 2 years of nothing. That's the one thing that I guess would scare me. But yeah. And that's a great comment here. So Artur says, if you're starting your agency or you want to, the easiest way to do it is to work either with a contracting company or having someone you're associated with who is providing clients for you to work with. And I think that's the best way to do it, because you don't want to be your own salesperson trying to find your own clients. You're better off finding a contracting agency and work for them as self-employed, and basically take clients they're providing. Otherwise, trying to find your own clients will be really, really difficult. And it's true, because there's this skill of salesmanship that comes into. Hemant says, hi from India. I wanted to learn full stack, but as you said, first learn and take a job in front end, so I have decided to do the same. Yeah, 100%. It's still my consensus here, is you need to learn front end first, because full stack, in my mind, full stack is not a junior position, by default. Like when you say you're a full stack developer and you're able to build full stack projects, you're no longer a junior. And with that being said, if you are a junior full stack developer, which I don't think exists, but basically you don't have all the necessary skills to truly call yourself full stack, it's going to be hard to get hired. So 100% go front end. And Hemant said he purchased Mr. Smilga's HTML course, JavaScript from Jonah, Udemy, React again from Jonah. Will take a job and continue learning full stack once you're hired. Please tell me what I learned to backend Node. Don't learn any backend yet at the moment. Just make sure you're learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and you're able to, and a framework of your choice. If it's React, fantastic. And then start building projects and go get hired. This is like such a great question, which is such a loaded question, because there's really no one way or one answer. But how do you convince employer I am the right candidate? Like, number one, it's you need to have great portfolio, and the easiest way is you have prior job experience. But a lot of us who are just starting out, we don't have that. So you need to have a great portfolio, and a lot of times you need to get to that interview not because you blindly send out resumes, but because you had someone refer you that you knew. And this is why I say working with recruiters is important, or having a community of friends who work at other tech companies or going to meetups, so you could find an opportunity where someone is like, hey, I just met, Paul, and he has an awesome project. His resume looks good. I'd like to refer him to our company. So at least that way you're getting an interview. And when you're on the interview, you basically have to sell yourself to be like, and when I say sell yourself, advertise your value that you have to the company to show them that you're the right person. And I'll give you one example. I got an interview where it was for building JavaScript, React application, but one of the things that was a requirement was TypeScript. So when I went to the interview, we were talking about what their projects are building. I asked them what they're working on. And the reason why I ask at interviews what people are working on, or what type of company, like I literally do research what type of company is, what kind of products they're doing. So at the interview, I could be like, hey, I know you have these 3 products and they're using these technologies. This is something that I've been working with, and here's some of the challenges I had that I solved. So I'm literally trying to talk about things that are relevant to the company that I'm applying to, and showing them that I know the talk, I walk the talk, and I could do the thing that they will require me to do. And in the case of the company that I was applying, in the example that I'm using, they said, hey, we also need people to know TypeScript. And I literally said, hey, I haven't started learning TypeScript yet. I am familiar with the concept. And if this is a requirement for your company, I just wanted to let you know that I don't know it yet, but I'm familiar with what it is. And I'm pretty confident that I could pick it up fairly quickly because I know JavaScript really well. So I gave them a good answer. Like, I didn't lie to them. I told them the truth, but I also showed that proactiveness of, hey, I'm going to do what it takes. And so that's kind of what you want to do, is you want to present yourself and the value that you have to the company based on relative things that they're working on. So if they're working on a React project, you should probably have a React project in your portfolio rather than talking about something you haven't done. Hopefully that kind of helped, but learn you and me. That's such a hard question that we could spend like volumes of answering it. But yeah, great. Paul, how do you answer a question like, what is your greatest weakness? So yeah, that's a great one. So what you need to do, and this is one great question, Abby. The tip that I would say here is that you need to have these little, like my friend calls them stories, which are things in your life that you kind of went through that basically fit into these type of questions. So look up a bunch of like soft skill questions, interview questions, and one of them will be like, what is your greatest weakness? And go ahead, before you go to an interview, make sure you have an answer for all those questions. So I like that you asked this question because I actually have an answer for this question in my life. So my journey, I started learning to code really late. So when people say, what is your greatest weakness? And what you do with the questions like that, you acknowledge your weakness and then you talk about something that you did that helped you to improve on it. So my biggest weakness, when people say, Paul, what is your biggest weakness, or what would you say your biggest weakness is? And for me, I would say, look, my biggest weakness is that I started learning to code late in life. I was in my mid-30s when I started to code, and because of that, I always felt that I need to do a lot of catch up, and felt that in order for me to get better, I would need to spend more time studying. So even though I started to code late in life, what I did is I created a very structured plan for myself to follow to make sure that I prioritize majority of the time available for me to continue to improve my skill as a developer, to learn to code. And this is what I did. These are the projects that I built. And because of starting late, I now really hold my time learning and development skills as a priority. And whenever I'm not at work, I'm always learning new things to make sure that I stay relevant and bring value to myself and your company. So like some answer like that, right? And so the idea is to take whatever answer they give you, acknowledge like a weakness of yourself, and then talk about how you're working or dealing with it to make it better. And getting those answers and writing them down beforehand will really, really, really help. Yeah, George, I think like if you have people ask you to build websites, just 100% go into it, but don't feel like you have to create a huge agency to do that. You could literally do it like you're doing it right now. Paul knows his maths. I mean, just the basics. Like if I have 2 sandwiches and someone takes one of my sandwiches away, I have less sandwiches, and that's bad, right? And so, Sam, bro, by the way, if you ever wanted to come on the live stream and chat, that'll be awesome. But Sam says, I've been making sites with WordPress and cPanel, PHP, MySQL for backend. I heard Django, MongoDB websites are easier for getting perfect scores in GT metrics. SEO. You know anything about this? So, by the way, I just wanted to chat here. If you're already building websites with WordPress, cPanel, PHP, and you have enough clients to continue to, like in your funnel, to continue to have work, like I would say, like you don't have to change the strategy that already works. For me, by the way, I'm not a big fan of Django and MongoDB or Python in general at the moment. I still feel that the JavaScript ecosystem offers a lot for developers. And let me tell you that I'm biased because I'm a JavaScript React person. Python is a really good language, but when it comes to web development, I'm still kind of biased for spending time JavaScript. And by the way, MongoDB, like I love the fact that, Sam, you said you've been using MySQL for backend, and every company I've worked for, I worked at 4 different companies. They all use SQL type relationship databases. There's no company that I worked for that used MongoDB. So I'm already hesitant to try to work on a tech stack that's not used by majority companies. So for me, even if I did JavaScript, what I would do is I would still focus on SQL databases, just because that's what you see in the wild. But I feel like And Sam says, this is for a simple portfolio, blog, website. Yeah, I mean, like if you're building something simple, to be honest, if you already have a lot of experience with WordPress, then just go ahead and set it up with WordPress. But if you're looking to learn additional skill, I would say like JavaScript with React, and you could use a CMS because you're comfortable with WordPress. So a CMS allows you, like I use Strappy CMS all the time. It allows you to create a backend really, really quickly and allows you to build full stack applications without being a full stack developer. So I'm building my project called devhunt.io. I'm using Remix as the front end, and for backend, I'm using CMS, which literally gives you something similar to an admin panel that WordPress has. But one thing that I want to say, a lot of people hate on WordPress, a lot of people hate on like all these different things, even like me saying I wouldn't learn Python. Like if you pick the technology that's popular enough, you'll have jobs. I actually have a friend that hurts my feelings because he's not a developer. He's more of a marketer, but he builds websites using WordPress, basically buys themes and sets them up for people. He uses Squarespace. There's another one, I forgot what it's called. He charges people $100 an hour. He has plenty of business, and that's what he does. He has no desire to learn coding on a deeper level. For me, like, that's cool, but that's not what I want to do. But what I'm saying, there's always opportunity for whatever skill set that you become good at. And let's see here. Yeah, the math was streaming for us Europeans. Oh, got it. Yeah, nice. I'm glad. And then Hemat says, thank you, Paul and Abby. Thank you, Paul. I'm learning to code at 29, so your channel is perfect for me. Bro, you started, I wish I started at 29. Like, so just to put things in perspective, I started at 36. I got my job at 39. I was literally making, and I'm not saying you should settle for a job that pays you. I was making at my first job $13.75 an hour, which you can't even live on, right? But I was like, the experience I gained is going to be definitely worth it. So let me go ahead and do that. And after my first job, my second job, I got paid like I think it was like $40 an hour. And then my third job was a little bit more. And then, so within like span of 2.5 years, I went from making like under 30,000 to almost making 6 figures, right? And so that is amazing to me that even though I started at, you know, super late at 39, now like I'm really close to the 6-figure mark. If not past it, I have to double check. But within 2.5 years, you could get there, and that's crazy because by 29, let's say you get hired at 31, by 35, you're going to be, by 33, 34, definitely by 35, you're going to be making 6 figures. And to do something where at 35, you're making 6 figures, I think that is phenomenal and amazing. So keep it up, keep going. You're going to do well. Then Sam says, that's exactly what I expect. I use the sites to make my own sales for a PPC service. I just want to learn to code so I don't have to pay developers to make. And I love like the cool side business ideas I have. Bro, I need to get you on the stream. We need to chat about this idea. I really love your entrepreneurial like mindset where you're like, hey, this is the thing I'm doing and I want to better understand to be able to create my own products and services. And so you like this entrepreneurial mindset is like, hey, instead of hiring people, which is nothing wrong with hiring people, like even if you're hiring people, you need to understand what you're doing. So I apply you for learning development. But the point that I'm saying here is that you're like, hey, this is something I want to build. Let me just learn the skills so I could do it. And I applaud that. That's really awesome and amazing. And I would love to chat with you because I am like because a lot of people ask me like these questions because I feel like getting your first job is way easier than starting a business. But I like talking to people who have their like business ideas that they've been executing and they have paying clients and really talk about the truth of what it takes to have that side hustle. Because I think like even though you're employed doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a side hustle. What I'm not saying though, don't do your side hustle while you're at work. That's bad. You should not steal from your company. So if you work for a company, do the best you can for that company. But at night when you're not working or on the weekends, you could build your side projects. Luke says, hey Paul, how are you doing? I think doing a live stream looking at portfolios would be awesome, helpful for everyone. I better get my portfolio ready. Yeah, Luke, fantastic. Like anybody that wants to have their portfolio review and the resume review, like let me know. I'd love to do it. And anybody that wants to do it, you're more than welcome to come on stream and we could talk about it. But I think since you're talking about this entrepreneurial mindset, what I'm going to do is I'm just to kind of try these different ideas and practice what I preach. I think I'm going to create a little service, resume and portfolio review just for fun. But anybody that is willing to come on stream, I'll review your portfolios anytime for free, like whatever. Like, because Luke, you're right, it's going to be helpful for everybody. So get your resumes and your portfolios ready. Send them to codingafter30@gmail.com. Let me put in my email here and we'll do that. I'd love to have more involvement from the community of doing stuff that brings you value. So if talking about portfolios, reviewing resumes is helpful, I would love to do that. codingafter@gmail.com. That's my email. So yeah, and let's see here. If you have any questions, please ask. And by the way, thanks for tuning in for Coffee Code and Chat, where we just talk about tech stuff, getting hired on. I stream twice a week, Friday nights at 9 p.m. CST time. It's very like I basically live code, building my Dev Hunt project that I want to make into a service one day. And at the same time, doing simpler tutorials as well. And the reason I do the live coding is to kind of show everybody the reality of what it's like to live code. It's not as glamorous as people think. Stuff breaks all the time. And I just want you to see a realistic expectation of what it's like to be a developer, especially when you're starting out. It's okay to struggle and make mistakes because you literally learn by trial and error. And then on Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. CST time, I stream like this, where I talk about, answering questions in terms of breaking into the industry, what tutorials or what resources you have available to you, or what you should do, or how you should approach an interview. What, like in my opinion, what are the things that you should focus if you're just starting out versus if you've been doing it for a while. Shohan, and I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but he says, hello, Paul. I was looking for courses recommendations and I thought your video came to know about your channel. I'm 26 with no computer science background. I hope I make it. You will definitely make it, bro. I am 42 and I got my first job at 39 and I started learning to code at 36. You're killing it. You're 10 years ahead of me when I started to code. So your future is bright. And what I would say, what I tell a lot of people, starting with front-end development is the fastest way to get hired. So I would say find a good course on Udemy for HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React. Build like 3 to 5 projects and then start applying. And you could realistically accomplish that anywhere from a year to 2 years. And I know people like, a year, 2 years, that's crazy. Like, the first thing I want to say is like, hey, if you get hired earlier, that's great. But the biggest gripe I have with YouTube is how easy they make it sound for people to land jobs with 3 months experience, 6 months experience. There might be people that have accomplished that, but that number is really small. So what I tell people, set realistic expectations. Say to yourself, it's going to be a year to 2 years of study time. And for me to get to a point where I'm very hireable and feel ready that I'm able to get a job hired. And the reason why, if you get a job earlier, you're going to be like, hey, I thought it was going to take 2 years, but it only took me like a year or 6 months, whatever it is for you. And you're not going to be disappointed. But if you say to yourself, hey, in 3 months, like if I don't get a job, you're setting yourself to failure, because the majority of us don't get hired after 3 months of studying or 6 months of studying. So set realistic expectations. But Shohan, you're going to do really good. Keep it up. You're going to get there. Just the one thing that I would say is don't overbuy courses. You literally need one course per topic. I'm literally going to say that to you. Every course that's out there, they're teaching you the same thing. So what you need to do is literally take one course for HTML and CSS, one for JavaScript, one for React, and build a lot of stuff from scratch. And you're going to get there. And Sam says, I can help with providing insight on the marketing sales side of things when viewing portfolios. Anyone that needs help upgrading your Upwork or other freelancing profiles can help with that as well. Yeah, if you want to share your Twitter, Sam, where people could follow you, I think you have a lot of good value to provide. Definitely share it here. I don't even know if you have a YouTube channel yet, but if you do, you could throw the link here. But yeah, share your Twitter or
whatever you feel comfortable with for people could follow you. And I'm curious, like, to be honest, Sam, I'd love to have this discussion with you on live stream. So definitely share a Twitter handle here or email me at codingafter30@gmail.com so we could connect. But it will be amazing to chat about all these things you're talking about because they all bring value. And with that being said, by the way, I just want to take a look at Udemy for a second here. So let me log in. I have like 2 different accounts. Yeah, welcome back. Log in. Yeah, log in. Where's my password thing? Log in with Google? That makes no sense to me. Never asked me that before, but we'll try it out. Let's continue with Google. Okay, so I'm in my learning. So I have a bunch of courses. This is 234 courses on this account, and I think it's only the ones that I have available. And then there's also a bunch of courses that are archived. But here's the thing that I want to tell you, there's so many courses on Udemy that it's so easy to kind of fall into this. And hold on, let me just quickly look at this comment. I'll help out in chat when you stream the portfolio reviews, and absolutely I'll email you. Fantastic, Sam. That would be awesome to do. And so let's take a look at Udemy here. So like if you go to like Udemy courses, there's really no shortage of courses, right? You could buy, like you could type HTML and CSS, right? And you're going to find literally 1,000 courses that you could take. Here's my gripe with that. When you take any course, right? So the way I look at it is like, when you look at a course, make sure that it's updated recently and that it has a lot of great reviews. Like this has 4.7 out of 5 reviews, over 4,000 reviewers. That is phenomenal, you know, like, and so I'm like, that's a good course, right? And so what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna buy like, because I've made this mistake. So if I were to do it again, I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't buy this course and then this HTML course and this HTML course and this HTML course, because they're all teaching you the same thing, just from a different instructor. So you don't need many courses unless you want to spend money like I did. And so what I would say, for each topic, pick one course. And here's the reason why, because no one has infinite amount of time. So once you complete an HTML course, right? Once you complete it, just build stuff based on what you learn and then move on to building things from scratch. I much rather have you focus on continue education by finding more advanced topics. Like for instance, for me, like let's look at my learning, like some of the recent courses that I bought. I was like, hey, I already know HTML and CSS. I already know JavaScript, and you could literally get them from one course. And so what I started to do is like, well, on top of HTML and CSS, what would be like a good thing for me to have to add more value at my company? So one of the things that I'm starting now, I started to work to get Solution Architect Associate Certificate with AWS. I think that's going to add value, especially as I'm transitioning to more of a full stack developer. And also, like, I like to like kind of try to get deeper topics. So instead of taking another HTML course, I'm like, I'm going to take programmatic system design so I could better understand how do software architects design their applications so I could be a better developer. And so instead of just like learning HTML 10 times, I'm just going to take one HTML course and CSS course, one JavaScript, build things based on the experience that I learned, and then learn additional skills that I need. Like for instance, I'm very interested in starting my own SaaS project. So I'm taking this SaaS masterclass course in order to learn what does it take to have a successful SaaS product. So the idea here is to basically not do the same course all over again, learn the course, build things based on what you learn, and then move on to a higher level course, which will add additional value to you to be able to grow, not just in your personal job, but also grow in if you decide to build a side project. You know, that's super important. So let's take a look at the comments. And if anybody has additional questions, this is the time to ask him. Go ahead and do so. Yeah, and this is 100% true, like what Sam says here. If you're starting at 26, and literally the only way you can fail is you give up learning. You can easily do it. It will just take some time, 100% guaranteed. And so this is the thing, even if you're starting at 39 or 36, like I did, basically the one thing I committed to is I said to myself, I'm going to keep doing this thing until I get hired or start my own business. And that's it. There's no like, I'm going to quit and stop. I'm literally going to pursue this until I have a job or I start my own business. I ended up getting a job, which is perfectly nice because I'm working in the industry. But that's kind of like the thing that I wanted to share with everybody here, is that it's that commitment to just not stopping, and then eventually you get there. That's literally how things work. So, and then, Shohan says, Sam, I appreciate your kind words. No matter how hard it is, ain't giving up. I will have to make it. You will make it. 100%. Don't give up. Keep going. Keep moving forward. You got this. And then Luke says, I literally learned everything from Net Ninja completely free on YouTube and amazing tutorials. 100%. He does really good tutorials. And honestly, I loved his tutorials so much that I bought his JavaScript course on Udemy because I was like, you know what? I'm going to support him for all the free content that he's been making on YouTube. That is awesome. Here's another like great point. So I haven't like used Upwork in forever, but this is the comment he's responding to. There's a way to get around TNC, view Upwork more like your quick Wix portfolio or a website you don't have to make. With good copywriting portfolio, you can easily beat competitors. This is another thing that's like super important skill to have. This concept of copywriting is being able to sell yourself with written word. And I think that's like a skill in itself that you could literally learn some basic copywriting and then make small business websites where you basically create websites quickly and then you write good copy, and that could be part of your product that you offer. But I think copywriting is good, not just even working for yourself, but literally trying to promote yourself. Like I recommend everybody takes a copywriting course. Just whenever you write something about yourself, you know how to do, or you know how to do it in a way where you provide value first that captures people that they want to listen to you and read on more. I think copywriting is a really, really important skill. And thanks for letting me know. Music is loud. I'll tune it down. And this is why I appreciate all of you in the comments to kind of let me know when things are too loud. Thank you, sir or ma'am. And then Deepak Giri says, few days back, I got to learn about Strappy and I love it. Yeah, Strappy is awesome and literally allows me to build projects super, super fast. Yep, and Sam here saying his expertise is PPC, advertising with AdWords and LinkedIn, which is, by the way, if you could do really well, that's a pretty high in demand thing. And this is what a lot of agencies do. Instead of becoming, and I just want to say this option is out there, right? So people kind of know that there's so many different approaches you could take to making money, either like being self-employed or even getting hired. Like with the skill that Sam has, like he could easily get a job at an agency or find his own clients. So basically what you could do as a marketing agency is you could literally learn how to manage AdWord campaigns on Facebook, Google, and LinkedIn. I haven't done LinkedIn before. And then learn how to use like Squarespace or Wix or WordPress to set up websites. And your service could literally be setting up those websites and providing some sort of like AdWord service where you help them manage their AdWord campaigns and make sure that they're not overspending by making sure that they're targeting appropriate keywords. And that's a business in itself, 100%. Yeah, that's a great point. People think that copywriting is about persuading people, but really it's mostly based on making things simpler and read and putting the most important info up front, 100%. So there's lots of like people that want to scam you. So that's why they look at copywriting the way you described it, because they want to persuade you to buy something that you probably is not a good product for you. But copywriting done right is basically going to be clear about the value proposition of what you're offering, of the thing that's going to solve your problem that you actually need and use to persuade you to buy. 100%. Very good. Very good. Yeah, Webflow is kind of cool too. I'm going to have somebody do a stream with me on Webflow, because they're working as a Webflow developer, and there's apparently jobs for that, which I haven't been in the Webflow ecosystem, so I'm not like aware of what's going on with Webflow. It would be pretty awesome to have them on and to go and talk about. And Deepak says, desperately waiting for the Power Hour podcast with John Smilga. Yeah, so those of you who didn't know, we have a Power Hour podcast that you could find on Spotify if you want to listen, or you could find it on Coding Addicts YouTube channel. But yeah, we basically have really good fun, talk about web dev stuff, pretty fantastic. And by the way, let me know if my internet is slow or not. I'm kind of like not sure if everything is working like it should. Let me know in the comments. If the stream looks good, that's good. Because my internet is going super slow right now. What is happening? But it's okay, no worries. Yeah, so check out Web Dev Power Hour, search it on Spotify, or go to Coding Addicts channel and check it out. Really fun. We do that Friday nights, 7:30 p.m. CST. Hamid says, it's all about experience out there. Getting first job is the hardest thing. That's so many years of constant learning. Good luck to you all. Yeah, Hamid, you're absolutely right. Getting your first job is the hardest thing that will feel like it's an impossible task. But once you get it, things get a little bit easier. I look at like getting your first job like a rocket ship going into space. It requires a massive effort to leave the pull of Earth's gravity. And that's why it needs immense amount of fuel and speed to like climb through the atmosphere and go into space. But once you're in space, there's less friction, or the closer you get to space, the friction is reduced. And once you're in space, it's almost like smooth sailing. And so, yeah, I'll have to, for next stream, change my settings. I might be streaming on a very high bit rate, but thanks for letting me know that the stream is a bit stuttery. My internet is not liking everything I'm doing right now, but I will do it on the next stream. But yeah, and so this is why I look at it. Getting your first job requires a lot of effort, like just massive work you have to do. But once you get your first job, your second job, your third job, the friction of getting hired decreases, and it gets easier and easier with that. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Contract for Webflow websites. Yeah, there's a market for it. And this is like the thing that I'm telling everybody, and something that I should have explored more and I didn't. And I know like there's so many different opportunities for us to make money. It doesn't have to be straight up development role like with React and JavaScript. It could be using low code or no code type of approaches and creating some sort of product that you could do yourself, or learning like Webflow well enough yourself that you could get hired to work as a Webflow developer. And, you know, everybody has to choose the thing that they want to do. And, but there are opportunity out there. And he says, if you go on LinkedIn, that's where a lot of entrepreneurs are talking about Webflow. Yeah, and there's many solutions. It's just picking the one that works the best, or for the thing that you like. And so for me, I really like JavaScript. I really love React. I love this idea of building applications with React. And so that's the route I went. But there's definitely many paths as one could take. The one thing that I would say is, and a lot of people give this advice, is look in your local area to see what has the best opportunity in terms of the tech that they're hiring for in your local area, and focus on doing that. So yeah, keep the questions coming. But to sum up this idea of like, yes, you know, whenever you start learning to code, nothing is guaranteed. Your job is not guaranteed. If you get hired, the fact that you're going to keep your job is not guaranteed. We see it with layoffs, and it's like we started this podcast with, you know, why if no one will hire me? And the idea is that what I wanted to basically stress throughout this podcast is that no one owes you anything. And so you have to work on creating your own opportunities. And we talked about doing that by making sure that you are constantly learning and developing skills that will make you hireable eventually. But at the same time, you're also developing skills and in parallel trying to be like, hey, I'm going to learn software engineering and I'm going to do it with the goal of getting hired. But if I don't get hired, right, I want to have the skill that I could build something or monetize my value of skills that I have to build a side project or get a contract role or what have you. So you always try to play all the avenues available to you with the skill that you're developing. And in order to make sure that you have more opportunities, you have to be proactive. The goal is to get involved in the community, go to meetups, meet friends on Twitter, meet friends on LinkedIn. But the best approach is definitely go to meetups. And if you have the opportunity and if they don't offer it, you could literally ask, be like, hey, can I talk about or can I give a talk at your meetup to build your reputation? And through being involved in meetups, you're going to get more job opportunities. So the short of it is the economy flows ups and downs. There's always going to be recessions. There's a bad one in 2008. You know, there's probably going to be a bad one this year, like 2003. And then there's probably going to be another one 8 years from now or whatever. And so there's always these ups and downs. But the people that get hired are the people that stay proactive and the people that don't let the flow of the market dictate how productive they feel. And instead, you should literally continue to do what you're doing and try to figure out what is the smartest thing you could do that's going to allow you to raise your value, or what places you should hang out to build your network that allows you to find people that will refer you to companies to work at. And that's kind of like what I've been doing and continue to do, because it's a strategy that works. We had earlier Benjamin mention in the comments how he lived in an area which didn't have a meetup, so he started his own meetup. And then after that meetup that he started, he had someone who was attending approach him and offer him a contract role, which is pretty fantastic, pretty awesome. And Luke, I have not tried Astro much. Would love to see Astro Strappy tutorial. Yeah, and at the moment, that's not like something that's on my radar, but I will at some point explore Astro, and that will happen. But in the meantime, I think there might be a blog post on strappy.io.com using Astro and Strappy. And if you build that before me, I'll definitely share it with us. But right now, my biggest thing is Next.js and Remix, and obviously using Strappy as a back end. And then outside of Strappy, like I'm learning Koa and Node because that's what Strappy is built on in terms of backend languages. So that's my focus lately. But let's see, if you have more questions, please let us know. I know we've been here for an hour and a half, and I know my stream is being choppy again. So I'm going to have to adjust my settings or figure out what is happening with my internet. But thanks for tuning in Coffee Code and Chat. I normally stream Friday nights at 9 p.m. CST time, where it's mostly live coding, building live projects from scratch. Those streams are not prepared because I want to show the reality of what it's like to code live, see all the struggles, because that's how you get better, through trial and error. And then I obviously stream Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. US Central Time, where we talked about different tips and tricks that you could use to break into the industry or something that could help you. And a lot of you were excited about this idea of doing portfolio reviews and resume reviews. So if you like me to review your resume or portfolio on stream, you could email me at codingafter30@gmail.com, send your portfolio, send your resume, and we could set a time. That'll be awesome to do that. But with that being said, if you don't have any more questions, what we could do, and I think I'm realizing that it's not my stream that's slow. It's literally my computer slow. I'm running too many different things, And this is like a new issue that I'm experiencing, but that's okay. I'm going to have to figure out what is happening, but that's up to me. But anyway, I just want to say thank you all for jumping on today for this choppy, framey stream. But I hope that the content and the audio came out nice, and that you found value in everything that we're doing. I appreciate all of you here. And if you do want to support the channel, you could obviously subscribe and like. But if you want to buy me coffee to donate to the cause, if you have extra money lying around, you could also do that. But please feel that you don't need to support me monetarily if you don't want to. But if you do enjoy what I do here, you can do that, because it would be nice if I could buy coffees. Or my goal, actually, to be honest, I'm going to not lie to you. Oh, if it works perfect for you, Northern Chim, that's awesome. If it, that's cool. Like, nice. And then, yeah, Sam, we'll definitely schedule something together and talk about it stuff. But cool. If it looks normal, then that's fantastic. That must be just something on my end here. But what I was going to say here, my brain like frozen now. What was I talking before? Someone, oh, this is why I can't do too many things at once or multitask. But yeah, I know we talked about sharing our portfolios and resumes and doing reviews. So if you want to do that, for sure, hit me up. And yeah, what I was saying, coffee, buy me coffee. You don't have to do it. If you want to support the channel, you can. You could like click, take a picture of that thing, whatever it's called. But as a running joke, what I wanted to see if I could, how long would it take in buy me coffees to get a Lamborghini? I think that would be like insane. It's going to take 100 years to 100 years. I think that's a great challenge to solve. And by the way, if my channel brings you absolutely no value whatsoever, you don't have to support it. And if it does bring you value, you don't have to support it monetarily either. But if you want to help out once in a while, buy me coffee or do a monthly coffee of $2, you're more than welcome to do that. With that being said, I will see you in the next stream. I want to thank you all for stopping by. We had amazing conversation. Love all of you. Remember, without you, like, I would not exist. So the link, like, you could literally take your phone and scan that coffee mug QR code, by the way. And that's actually a good point. My UI and my stream is not clear enough where to buy me coffee. Fantastic. I'm going to have to fix it. But yeah, just you take a picture of that coffee mug QR code and it'll take you to the site. See, learning everything every day. And thank you all. And I was just going to say, without you, this community would not exist. You literally are the community that I am a member of. Like, this is built by you, and I'm just happy to be here on the ride. And I love the fact that we have this very valuable conversation. I learned just as much from you that you do, that I hope you do from me. And most importantly, I want to say, I know a lot of times it's just me talking, but I've been through some bad things in the past year, and knowing of how awesome you were and you are in the community, literally knowing all the people I get to talk to, helped me to make it through some of the darkest points of this year. So I want to say thank you for that. And so wherever you are, I hope you have a great rest of the weekend. I hope you continue to chase your success, keep doing the work, because the secret to accomplishing anything, there's no secret. The secret is you and the work that you put into it. And so keep doing that, and I'll see everybody later. Thank you so much, and have a great one. Take care. Bye, everybody. See you later. I'm going to take a drive in my 80s mobile, which is stuttering like crazy right now because I think I have too many things open. But thank you so much, and I'll see everybody later. Have a great one, and I'll see you on the next stream.